Late again, Gabe.
So actually, I'm not late. There is a cuckoo clock at the place where I record, and I have to wait for it to go through its progression. It's super loud. For the group coaching session, some people have probably heard it before, but I try not to start and then have it be blaring in people's ears. So there
That
you
is
go,
probably the
Anna.
funniest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, it's really loud, but it's awesome. We love the cuckoo clock. We love it. All right. So we are here today. Trey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm ready for you to give your group coaching session on the Kuchera snowfall ratios. So I hope
Pass.
you have all of your notes ready.
Pass.
This is going, you know, you're going to be inundated with winter weather questions. You
Oh yeah.
realize that, right?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Last
I
night
can,
we had the
I,
group coach. Oh, go ahead.
but I have no clue what the hell Kuchera is, so don't ask me about Kuchera because I have no idea.
Last night we had a group coaching session with Brad Arnold. It was about storm chasing equipment. It's a really good session. Lots of awesome stuff was talked about, but I apologize in advance to the people who would be watching it on demand after the fact because I'd say about 33% or so of the show was actually people talking about the winter weather just because apparently I don't know a lot about forecasting, but apparently this is like unprecedented and all of our people from the plains all the way over into Dixie Alley are getting pretty nervous about what's about to unfold.
Yeah, it's going to be a doozy. I just stocked up today here in Norman. I just got back a couple days ago. I should have waited a week. Stayed in Arizona where it was 80 degrees.
Yeah, yeah, man, you definitely screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, but I got all my supplies and stuff, so I'm ready to go. Might go out to document it. Snow's not my favorite thing in the world. Especially ice is not, but
Yeah, yeah.
if it gets toward that historic threshold, then I'll go out. I got some chasers here who I'll hop in with, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we discussed last night with Brad was how it's a whole different ball game when you're getting this much ice versus a snowstorm. A snowstorm can just be mildly inconvenient. Maybe you spin out and fly off the road. A tow truck wrecker has to come get you and pull you out. But when you're talking about this much ice, you make one mistake, no one's coming to get you for a long time because nobody's going to be able to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, people here in Oklahoma don't know how to drive on a sunny day. So introduce a little bit of just a little bit of ice and it's over with. But yeah, it's going to be pretty crippling. I'm watching it closely now because it looks like the snow ice line, the transition line's moving north on the models. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't get a lot of ice and it's just snow because that'll be better. But if we get a lot of ice, it could get pretty dicey here, power outages and stuff. And wherever they do get ice, this Texas eastward into the mid south and southeast, they could be in for a pretty rough one here. So we'll see how it turns out.
I think that's the important thing to bear in mind is that someone somewhere is going to take the brunt of it. So it's just
Yeah.
really at this point sitting back and waiting because there's not a whole lot you can do to figure out exactly where that's going to be.
Yeah, these are so finicky. We'll probably wake up tomorrow and that line will be much different than it is today. It's just kind of the nature of these winter storms. They're just really finicky. Models don't do well with the cold air, the depth of the cold air. So we'll just wait and see. But hopefully tomorrow we'll get a little bit more clarity.
And to that, and I'm just doing a quick adjustment. I'm on a new computer, and the screen is larger than my old one, so everything is like super tiny, and I feel like I'm an ant trying to read. But I think I got everything here. So if you guys want to go ahead and get your questions in, of course, that is what we are here for. Anna, I see you're already doing a great job adding those to the list. Thank you very much. Have not introduced tonight's top goober, but Anna is here, stalwart as always. So wonderful to see that you survived the earthquake.
I was way too far away to even feel that thing. It was a 3-point Sutton all the way down in Springfield.
Yeah, I was looking at the earthquake charts, which admittedly I know absolutely nothing about, but it was showing like little graphics that were affecting Ohio. So I was wondering if I was supposed to feel some of that or what was going on.
I didn't even know there
Let's
was an
see.
earthquake today.
It was like 2 days ago, right, Anna?
Yeah, yeah, it was a few days
Oh,
ago. I sent a
Yeah, yeah, it was
message
like
to Jack because he lives in St. Louis, and I was like, "Yo, did you feel it?" And he was like, "No."
Interesting.
all right,
I've been trying
Trey.
to settle back in. I just got back 2 nights ago here to Norman. So I've just been kind of running errands and stuff and prepping for the winter storm.
Shout out, by the way, to a couple of folks in chat here. Ethan Moriarty, Coach, June 1st channel. Good to see you, man. And also, I see Monty the Maniac, one of our storm chasing tour participants, coming up here soon. Um, excited to be going out on that little adventure. Fun fact, that's actually going to be the first time Trey and I meet in person. So
Indeed.
I've been practicing in the mirror for the hug that I'm going to give you, actually. So.
Nice. Nice.
I'll be there.
All right, let's go ahead. We got some questions building up now. Greeny WX, Chaser Academy subscriber, so you get first priority. Up onto the stage you go, my friend.
All right, this is not like a real like big meteorological question, but this is actually what this is a question I was thinking about after I jokingly asked about the Molokai Hill video for the 300th time. Besides March 31st, 1985, what are other Northeast events that, you know, really catch your mind and really interest you?
I gotta be honest, I really don't know a ton. That's probably very offensive to the Northeast folks in here. Sorry, Ethan and others, but I don't really know a ton, to be honest with you. I really where I was drawn in by the plane stuff. So you know, I was big into May 3rd, '99 at first, and that kind of stuff. So I've always been kind of honed in on the planes and whatnot. So I really don't know a lot of Northeast outbreaks. I obviously knew of the 1985 one. That one's a big one. But I don't really pay attention out to big events out there. I'm sure there are plenty of others that I'm not thinking of, but yeah, I people probably think I'm a big tornado historian. I'm really not that much, to be honest with you. Outside of doing weather all the time for the channel and SEC, I don't really want to think about weather a lot. So I don't watch tornado videos that often online. I don't really go back and just nerd out on cases. I just kind of want to take a break when I'm not doing weather. So yeah, Molokai Hill is a good one. Obviously, that one's a big one I'd like to cover, just because that was kind of just so unique for that area. But yeah,
In there, by the way, Trey. People not taking one thing and making it absolutely everything about their life, because even if you absolutely love something, it's a great way to burn out. If you weren't dropping trays, no pun intended, on fools at the basketball court
Yeah.
and scooping pots at the casino, probably wouldn't have the clarity of mind to make all the awesome content on your YouTube channel.
yeah, the videos are a grind, and I can honestly say I don't enjoy it at times because they're just, some of these videos get so involved, and I'm a perfectionist, so I'm doing like 15 takes for one little 30-second segment. So it's kind of a lot. So when I'm not doing that and I'm not doing SEC stuff, I don't want to think about weather that much. So I have some outlets: playing golf, playing basketball, playing poker. Those are my things to kind of de-stress and not think about weather. But yeah, I don't like obsessing over past events, past chases and stuff, because then I just nitpick how I chased it, or just get mad that I wasn't there or got some certain view. So I don't go back and look at historical cases all that much, to be honest with you. But when I do videos and stuff, I pour into it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that perfectionism has really shown through in the time that we've gotten to know each other better. For example, when we switched to these more live-oriented formats, I believe the instruction I gave was just sort of like a casually structured conversation. You showed up to the first couple of them with very detailed notes and everything, which, by the way, not knocking you for that at all. Obviously, all of our viewers who were either there live or watching the video after the fact got a tremendous amount out of those. But I think it just goes to show that it's difficult for you to, and I can confirm, difficult for you to not give it 110% if you're actually going to be creating content like that.
Yeah, I knew with the change in the structure of SEC that we were going away from the in-depth modules and we were going to more of these live sort of kind of off the cuff things. I still want it to be chock full of information. Certainly more of a conversational style, but I still wanted there to be lots and lots of info in there. So yeah, I know I probably went overboard for that first one, but my next one's going to be about all the different types of cape. So I'm sure I'll be back with
Yeah,
my
you'll be back,
2-page
man.
note sheet with that. So
I have no doubt whatsoever. And by the way, I see quite a few green names that are talking in chat. If your name is green, that means you are not a Chaser Academy subscriber. I just dropped actually a little embed there for you guys to check out if you'd like to subscribe. Not only do you get bumped to the front of the list when we're doing these office hour sessions, you also get access to 6 90-minute group coaching sessions every single month. So, I mean, that's like 9.5 or something hours worth of content each month where you get to actually be part of it, ask questions. It's interactive. Then also we have a Q&A channel where Trey and Ethan and Hunter folks and Kyle Gillette and all of our other coaches are always answering questions. Someone's always there. Junior coach Stephen Cross, he's in there all the time. So really great value, we think, for the price that we're selling it for. $9 if you pay monthly. It's as cheap as $7.20 if you actually subscribe annually. So it's about the best you can get out there. It's less than a combo meal if you're going out to grab lunch, and you get some phenomenal content from some guys that I think are some of the best in the business. So we'll get back to questions now after the little sales pitch there.
Also, it's like $9 a month, so like that's like cheaper than a Five Guys cheeseburger.
Yeah, no, the
well, I mean,
fries.
well,
Oh,
so actually a Honda Civic is less than a Five Guys cheeseburger.
wait,
So
what? Oh, yeah,
five,
okay.
I
Sarcasm.
hate
Yeah,
Five
because
Guys.
five guys is yeah. So
It's
it
so
is pretty.
expensive for a mid burger and fries.
Yeah, I
I'm an
remember
In-N-Out guy
actually.
anyway, but Five Guys is just crazy with the prices.
Yeah, I remember Melissa and I ate there actually traveling home from the Northeast last time we went back to visit her family, and we always drive. We like to drive, and we were stopping to get something to eat, and we're like, oh, Five Guys or whatever. We sat down. I think I got like 2 sandwiches, 2 things of fries, and 1 drink because I didn't even get a drink. I brought my own bottled water in. It was like $48.
It's
It's like
insane.
what the hell?
Yeah,
Jesus.
you either mortgage your house or go to Five Guys. You can't do both.
Very true, very true. So, Radar Shark. By the way, Radar Shark said they're scared about the weather coming in. Don't be scared. Just get prepared, my friend. Shark has
Yep.
this. Shark has this. How cooked is Western Tennessee on Saturday? Is their question.
Um, I would say fairly cooked. Um, I think you're going to get a pretty good amount of winter precipitation. What that is remains to be seen. We are seeing that northward shift in the line, the ice snow line, kind of the transition line. So we'll see. I would definitely prepare for mixed precipitation, and that includes some ice. So I would definitely prepare for that.
Sorry, I was just dropping in chat that Culver's is the best. Trey, I don't know how you feel about that, but I'll take Culver's over
Culver's is
anything.
Culver's is very solid. I do love their custard, and their root
Yep.
beer is amazing. But they do have a good
M.
burger.
Fraser
I will
One,
say
also
that.
Chaser Academy subscriber, bumped up to the top of the queue. They ask, when making your tornado season forecasts, are there any specific tools and resources that you find helpful to make predictions for how the season is going to go?
Yeah, so I basically look at three things. The main one I do is the progression of the ENSO phase during the year. So El Nino Southern Oscillation. That is kind of the biggest thing that I've found to be a modulating factor. There's peer-reviewed research that I use, Lee et al. 2016. Let me see if I can find it here online. I've downloaded it, but there's some pretty good research that's shown that not the specific ENSO phase that you're in for most of the season, it's how that ENSO phase progresses through the season is actually a pretty good indicator for pretty good linkage from that to spring tornado outbreaks. So that is kind of the main thing. Then some other auxiliary things. I look at some other teleconnections. The problem is that you can't. A lot of these teleconnections you're not able to forecast out months in advance, and so you can get a pretty decent idea of how it's going to evolve over the next several months, even the next year in the future, which helps obviously for a spring forecast in kind of winter. But a lot of the teleconnections can't do that unfortunately, you can't do that with those. And then some other things like Gulf sea surface temperatures. How warm the Gulf is pretty has been shown in peer-reviewed research as well to be a modulating factor. A warmer Gulf usually means more instability, more robust warm sectors that are able to come inland and farther north at that. And then drought in the EML source region, so the desert Southwest, the Rockies, etc. How bad's the drought out there? If you get a really bad, persistent drought out there, that could mean your elevated mixed layers are a little bit too strong chronically throughout the season, and that can lead to some capping issues out there. So you want to see a less drought out there. Still, you want probably a little bit is not a bad thing. That way you can get some EML. But those are kind of the three main things that I look at: the teleconnection, specifically ENSO, and the Gulf sea surface temperatures and the drought in the EML source region. Those are the main ones.
Love the process there. Adam, another Academy subscriber. Trey, can we talk about the Dryline circulation? How does it circulate? Why does it circulate? And can you explain how to determine the possibility of convection using the depth of the EML on the dry side and the depth of the moist layer on the east side of the boundary? Maybe you could pull out your legendary artistic skills for this one. So I'll leave that to
Oh,
you,
man.
Trey, however you want to roll with this one.
I'll need to get my pad out. If I didn't get my pad out, it's still in my bags. But I can try with the mouse. Let me see. So basically, the dry line is not just a boundary at the surface. It's a vertical circulation. And there's some physics in there, honestly, that might be a little above my head, if I'm being honest. But we can, and Rich Thompson talks about this in his tornado forecasting class. I believe it's episode 3, I want to say. He does this technique. Where you look at the depth of the mixed layer on the dry side of the dry line and the depth of the moist layer on the moist side of the dry line. So actually, let me get my pad out.
Yep, and while you guys are doing that, I'll read a couple of questions off here. See, as always, we have some wonderful people in chat. Andy says Culver started in Wisconsin and became widespread around the mid-90s. I grew up with it. Yeah, Culver's came to Columbus about 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and just like when Sheets finally arrived, I was so happy about it. Just cannot get enough Culver's.
We actually don't have Culver's in OKC, sadly, or anywhere in Oklahoma for that matter. So that's a little unfortunate.
That is absolutely
Hopefully
devastating.
Hopefully they'll come eventually. We have stupid Whataburger here, which is awful. I'm sorry for any Whataburger fans out there. It's atrocious. But yeah, I wish we had a Culver's here. I wish we had an In-N-Out here. I'm sorry. I love In-N-Out. But
I've never had In-N-Out, but I hear nothing but good things about it.
Well, you probably haven't talked to the right people because there's a very big contingent who thinks it's way overrated.
What Dairy Queen? Dairy Queen's solid.
Well,
I used to live in South Carolina, and I had to leave Culver's behind in Illinois. So I had to cope with Dairy Queen, and you know what? It was okay. They had some good blizzards at the time. This was like 2020.
Sad. So Dairy Queen, I don't love their hot food, but the ice cream is legendary. Can't deny that.
Indeed.
Love a good. My go-to is an Oreo cookie blizzard.
Extremely valid. I love it.
Definitely a Reese's Pieces blizzard for me.
Nice.
Reese's Pieces blizzard, by the way, and I am like the world's biggest freaking Karen. If I don't have at least 2 or 3 pieces of candy in every single bite, I'm marching right back up to the front of the store, and they're going to either put more in or they're going to make me a new one. There are very few things in life where I demand excellence all the way through. No mistakes. And blizzards from Dairy Queen are one of them.
Yeah, Dairy Queen blizzards are legendary, I will say. Let's see if I can pull up a sounding here real quick. Let's go back to a random case study. How about May 3rd, 99? Let's see if I have a sounding from there. Yeah, actually, I need one from the moist side and the dry side. So I'm trying to remember a case that I did this for. We'll need a case that I did this for. I don't know if I can remember off the top of my head a case that I did this for. but maybe May 23rd. Soundings.
Well, you're getting that. I'll shout out Greeny, who says, I love how we have so few weather questions and are reverting back to food debating. Yeah, because you guys know Trey could talk about food for the entire office hours and he'd be totally fine with that.
I could. We need a food chaser coaching.
Yep, Culinary Chronicles. We're just waiting for it, man. We're just waiting for it.
I'm debating starting the channel, the YouTube channel for that, honestly. So we'll see. But yeah, I could talk about food all day. Let's see.
It was like Twist in Nature. Is that a helpful one? I don't know if that's a good one or not. I don't know if people are contributing to giving you photographs or if they're just having conversations amongst themselves.
Well, so I need one from the dry side and one from the moist side, but I can kind of do one here. Do you see a black screen right now?
Yep.
Okay. So let me kind of draw one here. So I'll do the temperature. So imagine this sounding on the left is going to be your dry side sounding. And that might be a little too much. So you have your sounding on the dry side of the dry line that's very well mixed usually. And you have a, pretty big, mixed layer emanating from the surface. And then you have your typical moist side sounding, which might have a little bit of, something like that. You have some dry air aloft, and then you kind of have the football goalpost there. So essentially what you're doing, so this is the dry side, moist side here. So what you do is you're going to measure the depth of the mixed layer on the dry side of the dry line. So, you go up to kind of something like that. And then you would transpose it over to your moist side. And obviously on the dry side of the dry line, it's obviously going to be oftentimes going to be higher terrain. So it might be, something like this, a little bit elevated from the surface. And then you would do your moist side, the depth of the moist layer on the moist side. So you want that moist layer to be within this zone of the dry side mixed layer. If go ahead.
Oh,
did you say something?
I was just saying, interesting.
Oh yeah.
I forgot to mute myself basically.
Yeah, you want your moist layer to be within this, because this basically estimates the depth of the dry line circulation, this depth of the mixed layer on the dry side of the dry line. So this is basically your dry line circulation right here. And so you want your moist layer to be within this circulation here. And if it's not, then you're going to have a tough time getting convection to go up in that dry line circulation. The dry line circulation is not going to be enough to support a convection. Let's say we had the dry circulation was something like this, so your moist layer extended well into the dry line circulation, then you have a much better chance of seeing convection go up from the dry line circulation itself. So this is good a good kind of technique to use when you are dealing with a case that the dry line is going to be mainly your main initiating mechanism for storms. And you don't really have a ton of strong forcing mechanisms aloft, such as a short wave or something. You're really just relying on the dry line. This is a good technique to do when you're forecasting because it will tell you if your dry line circulation is deep enough to support convection. So I know this was kind of a crude drawing, but I wish I had soundings with me that I could pull. I know I have some in the archives. I just can't remember which videos I've done it for. So, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of that.
Who was it that asked that question? I think it was
Adam, I believe.
Adam. Okay, so Adam, I know you're a Chaser Academy subscriber, and that's a great question. I'm sorry we couldn't answer it as in-depth as Trey would have liked, but if you wouldn't mind posing that question over in the Q&A channel in the Chaser Academy section, left-hand side on Discord, then Trey will probably be able to get back to you. Maybe not tonight, but whenever he has an opportunity and he finds those soundings, I'm sure he'd be happy to throw those out there and maybe get a little bit more of an explanation for you.
Yeah, definitely send that. I can probably get you an answer tomorrow. I'll just have to dig up the soundings from my my hard drive and whatnot. But yeah, I know I have some somewhere. But that's basically the gist of it. And if you go again to Rich Thompson's tornado forecasting class on YouTube, he does this exact thing. I believe it's I want to say it's May 24th, 2011, something like that. I I believe he does the exact same technique in that. So you can look there as well for the answer on that.
Greeny, back to the top of the queue, really exercising those Chaser Academy subscriber benefits. Go ahead and bring you back up on stage, my friend.
All right, I gotta know Trey's opinion on this. So, what did you think of the great June 19th Aurora Borealis bust?
What was that?
I'm not sure.
What day was that?
I'm not. June. Not June. Why did I say June? January 19th. Yeah. The one that happened. Like 2 days ago.
Yeah, that was kind of the May 20th, 2019 of Aurora events, wasn't it? It's supposed to be.
Yeah, it was near Carrington level event.
Yeah.
It was huge. If it went negative, it probably
Yeah.
would have like knocked a good portion of our power grid out. But hey, I wouldn't have minded because pretty sky colors.
Yeah, true. My first inclination that day was this CME is hitting pretty early. It seems like we'd want it to hit a little bit later. And sure enough, the BZ flipped. I know we got some for those who stayed up way late into the morning. I know some folks got some good stuff there, but yeah, I'm not staying up till 6 a.m. Sorry. I've seen the Aurora once, and it was cool. And honestly, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good for a while. I'd like to go, to the Arctic Circle or somewhere up like Iceland up there and see the Aurora just, getting just maximally blasted in the face by greens and reds. But that is not going to happen in Oklahoma. So I didn't really, and I was driving back that day. I just got back that day from Phoenix. So I was too tired to go out. But yeah, that was kind of the May 20th, 2019 of Aurora events, it seems.
You're supposed to keep talking. I didn't have a chance to post the meme I wanted to post. All right. Sanus Northeast Chaser says, all right, I'm going to fire this off. I'm thinking about non-mesocyclonic tornadoes. I can understand what helps make land spouty things and linear mesovortex things, but how the hell do you wrap your head around those weird thunderstorm blob tornadoes? And I'm guessing it has to be something to do with local boundaries.
Probably. You'd have to give me an example, specific example, but I would assume there's some kind of just weird storm interaction in there, or some kind of leftover boundary, or sometimes the boundary from one storm in the cluster will give you just enough of a little blip to get the job done. Last year in New York, there was a messy MCS that produced a killer tornado. Yeah, sometimes it's just if you have strong enough low level shear, you don't need that much instability. It can look awful, and for a killer tornado, it doesn't even need to be a big tornado. It can be a small one, and somebody's just caught off guard. So, it depends on the situation, but it just sometimes the low level shear can be enough, and there's just enough of a little kink in the line that'll do it. Sometimes it's just there's a weird storm interaction, or it just depends on the setup. But yeah, I've seen some weird ones in that regard for sure.
Storm Chaser Jack Kelly, very own moderator, can you please teach me how to play basketball again? And by the way, isn't it weird that the whole nominative determinism thing with your name being Trey and you preferring to shoot three-pointers? I'm sure they make fun of that all the time when you're playing basketball.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it's my name. It's probably my skill level and my lack of hops.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else. We all know where you were thinking about going with it, but in 2026 we're not allowed to say it. But anyways, you guys know.
Yeah, I can't really dribble that well. I play the JJ Redick role, the Kyle Korver role. I can't really.
I was going to say Klay Thompson, if you have the defense.
No, I do play decent defense. I usually get a couple blocks a game, shockingly. So, but I plays much better than it's of a. He's definitely another level. I'm more the Kyle Korver type. I just stand in the corner, come off some screens. The guys pass it to me, and I'll jack it up, and that's kind of my game. But
let's see, Kazaki, what's going on, man? He asks, as I am new to winter weather forecasting, could you please tell me the ratio of Kuchera to the, I'm just kidding. As I am new to winter weather forecasting, I am just curious what is driving this potential ice storm in the south. I've heard that there is a high pressure system in the northern plains driving the Arctic air south, but I wasn't sure about all the components making this possible. And I'm actually really interested to hear your explanation, Trey. I've heard something about the Baja high or low or some shit like that out in the Pacific Ocean near the southwest coast of the U.S. So what's going on with all this stuff?
Yeah, so there's a cutoff low out in the Pacific, kind of near the Baja area, that's going to eventually phase with a trough over the central and northern U.S. Those are going to kind of become one by early next week. So ahead of that cutoff low, you're getting plenty of moisture out ahead of that. And then we're going to have forcing out ahead of that for multiple rounds of winter precipitation. As far as the ice threat goes, so yeah, that cold air, that cold air is really just sagged down. We know we've seen the projections how cold it's going to get. It's very, very cold air. So cold air always wins. That's the one thing in meteorology you can count on. Cold air always wins. So that is surged down, or is going to continue to surge down over the next couple of days, and that's going to make the surface, near surface layer very cold, but it's very shallow. So farther to the north, the entire profile is going to be below freezing. So you're going to get mostly snow, and it's going to be heavy snow at that. To the south, you might have a little bit of remnant warm air just above that shallow, very cold layer in the near the surface. So where that happens is going to be extremely critical in telling us who's going to get ice and who's going to get mostly snow or a mix. But that's really the difference between ice and snow. Snow, your entire profile, your entire sounding profile is below freezing. With ice, you have a warm nose aloft, and depends on the shallowness of that near surface cold layer and where that warm nose is aloft relative to that. If you have a warm nose aloft, and it's high up enough, and then you have a pretty deep layer of sub-freezing temperatures below that, you can still have precipitation refreeze before it hits the surface into snow or sleet. But if it's really shallow, cold air at the surface, or a very stout warm nose just above that, then it's not going to have time to refreeze really before it hits the surface, and then it freezes on contact with the surface. It falls as rain, and then it freezes on contact, and that's what we're watching. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, it's a very dynamic system, and with this cold plunge is really going to set the stage for winter precipitation over a widespread breadth of the southern half of the country.
Great analysis there, Trey. And I'm also going to throw something out there because I'm super interested in space weather. I'd say probably the last year or so I've been more interested in space weather than even convective severe weather. And Greeny was talking about, of course, the event from the other day where we had a super fast CME. It wasn't particularly powerful on the X scale, but it was super fast, much faster than forecasted. And I'm talking about the official forecast that come out from the Space Weather Prediction Center. And the BZ, of course, Trey, you were talking about earlier, if the BZ is oriented positive, that means the magnetic field of the CME will couple with the Earth, and it doesn't really produce those really intense auroras, at least usually. And so when we had that BZ sitting in the like 60 to 80 range positive for 4 or 5 hours the other night, I was pretty surprised to see such low latitude auroras result from that. And again, I'm still a novice at this, but I would love an explanation as to exactly how we were able to get so many low latitude auroras from an event like that. And then also, I know that getting into the morning hours, we had the BZ finally flip to negative, and I think it was between like 5 and 10 negative BZ. And there was still some really awesome aurora displays. So, I know that there's a lot of different stuff that can factor into it. I know there's substorms, which are their whole other thing. I've read a lot of Vincent Ledvina's material. I think that's how you pronounce his name. A lot of his material trying to decipher exactly what's going on. And I know that, prior agitation of Earth's magnetic field can sort of prime the pump so that lesser events can actually cause outsized effects. But I would love it if anybody has any literature or anything that they could point me to explain, because I was seeing stuff from people on on X, Twitter, who were talking about the event, and they were saying things like, this is basically going to be a case study. Maybe Trey can make a video about it someday. They were saying this is going to be a case study for auroral displays as a result of highly positive BZ values. And so I took that to mean that this was sort of an unprecedented event in that regard. Don't know if you have anything to add to that, Trey, but just something that's been on my mind that since Greeny brought it up, I figured I'd throw that out there to the people in chat.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an Aurora expert. If there's anything I know less than winter weather, it's probably Aurora. But from what I've heard, you can have the solar wind speed. If it's really fast, it can help overcome some of that positive BZ, I guess.
Yeah.
So you still get auroras at low latitudes. It can kind of compensate, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, and the speed is I think that one was like traveling like 1,200, 1,300 kilometers. Is it per second or it's per hour, right? Or per second? Is it per second? Yeah, per second, right? I don't know. I think it's per second. Per hour would take it way too long to get here. I don't know, guys. We don't know what we're talking about. Let's get back to severe convective weather. Thank you. Evino Ame, I hope I pronounced that right. Academy subscriber. Thank you for that. They want to know what are the driving reasons why the Rockies are not getting snow this year. Anything to do with global warming. And I'll also throw in there anything to do with maybe the larger overall pattern that you might have heard about.
Yeah, it's the teleconnections. And again, those are kind of over my head as well, the alphabet soup of all the different things going on. But I know there's been some teleconnections. We're in a very kind of split flow regime. So I can tell you what's happening from the weather pattern itself. As far as its connection to the teleconnections, I'm not 100% sure on. But we've had this kind of stagnant pattern out west. And we've had that high kind of sitting there. That's what's caused that fog in the Central Valley of California. It's what's caused mostly just quiescent weather out there for this entire winter, which is not all that unusual, especially down in the Southwest for a La Nina winter. But we've had this kind of split flow regime. So we've had stagnant high out west. You have troughs that come in across the central and northern portion of the country and move east. And then you have your subtropical jet down to the south. So you're kind of in the Rockies have kind of been stuck in the middle in that regard. They've kind of just been on the eastern extent of that high pressure ridge and not really west or east enough to be impacted by those troughs coming down. And obviously too far north to get the impacts of the subtropical jet. So it's been kind of just a stagnant pattern out there that's really been unfavorable for snowfall and big winter storm systems out there. So what that means for the severe weather season remains to be seen. But yeah, that's kind of what the background pattern's been like. As far as teleconnections go, I'm not 100% sure on that. But that's the basic gist of what's the pattern's been overall this winter.
Oh, cool. And we are finally, all of you who are basic members, we still love you, by the way, but all of you who are basic members, we are just now getting to our first basic member question. So just another little encouragement for you guys to subscribe to the Chaser Academy if you haven't already. I'm going to drop Percy into chat. Percy tends to be a little more persuasive than I am. So if you're looking to subscribe, go ahead and, well, don't be like Percy, is all I'm going to say. Storm Sync WX, Connor, what's going on, man? He says, in my opinion, it may rival past winter storms like 1998, for example. Trey, do you know about the 98 storm?
Not much, honestly, but I've heard of it, and it's definitely been talked about in this case.
I also see Scott, who is a basic member, asking, hey guys, what's the first tornado that you've seen? So Trey, what was your first experience seeing a tornado?
First tornado I technically saw was the May 24th, 2015 day down in southwest Kansas, not the Dodge City Tornado Fest. It was the year before. It was the nighttime tornadoes near Plains and Ensign, Kansas. We got pretty close to the Ensign, Kansas. We were right outside of town as it came into the north side of town, and I have a video still of it, probably less than a quarter mile just north of us. We did a pretty unsafe maneuver that night for a newbie chaser. We were chasing out west, kind of at the Colorado-Kansas border region. Caught this amazing shelf cloud, probably one of the best shelf clouds I've ever seen. I have a canvas of it on my wall. It was incredible. We thought the day was over. We saw a storm go up out east, but we're like, yeah, it's not going to do much, and we're just going to get a hotel and whatnot. I had a friend who was chasing out there and decided to go to that storm. It started perking up and started looking better. So we're like, yeah, we're pretty far. We're like 90 miles from it, 80 miles from it. We're not going to make it. And then it started looking really good, and I text him, "What do you see?" And he just sends me a picture of a wedge. So we flew east. Yeah, we used excessive speed that night. I will admit it. We flew east, and we could go south and then east to come up on its south side, which is the safer option. We decided to go east and then south, dropping right in front of it. This was nighttime, mind you, and we were in total fog as we dropped south north of the storm. It was completely foggy. So we didn't have any visibility. Thank God we had radar working, but that was a noob maneuver and not one that I recommend. But that was my first tornado experience. The first one I actually saw and was able to document really well was a few days later, Canadian, Texas, May 27, 2015. You're muted, I think.
You're muted.
You might say it was a maneuver.
Yes, maneuver. Yes, very much so.
Had to unmute myself to deliver that, Jim. Okay. Saying this Northeast chaser wants to know about corn sweat and when to watch out for it. So Aaron kind of gave his heuristic the other day when he was talking about storm chasing in Canada. That group coaching session, by the way, available in the group coaching replays in the Chaser Academy section of the channels list. He talks about how in Manitoba you can get that really, I think he said canola more than corn up in that area, but sort of the same thing. And he said if it's as tall as you are and it's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, expect serious evapotranspiration. Do you have any, Trey, do you have any more technical or in-depth answers to that? Or do you pretty much agree with what Aaron was talking about?
Yeah, that's pretty on point. I found that it doesn't make a ton of difference in most cases. Usually, when you're talking late spring, summer events up in the Midwest, your dew points are already in the mid to upper 70s, even close to 80 at times. So it usually doesn't really matter all that much. When you really want to look for it is when your moisture overall might be a little bit on the marginal side. Then the evapotranspiration can bump up those dew points a little bit more, so you get a little bit better of an environment in the low levels for tornadic supercells. But most of the time, I found it doesn't really matter all that much, but it can change the dew points a few degrees, which can be helpful when your setup is a little bit more on the marginal side.
And let's see here. Looks like tornadoes equals 0. I always will love that username. Requested to speak earlier, but unfortunately that is not something that we can allow for the free members. Got to be a Chaser Academy subscriber to come up on stage and serenade Trey. StormSync WX Connor asks, what prompted you to start creating meteorological analysis videos? Was there a specific setup that inspired you?
Not really a specific setup. The first setup I did cover was the October 20th, 2019 North Dallas tornadoes. That was my first forecast video. If you go back and watch that, it absolutely sucked. So you can see how bad I was back at the beginning. But there wasn't a specific event. That was just the first one, I thought. And I drawn some inspiration from Levi at Tropical Tidbits. And just thought there's not really these type of videos for severe weather specifically. I'd seen a few around, but nobody that really specifically focused on severe weather forecast discussions. So I thought, let's try it and see. And if people like it, people like it. If not, then I'll just, let it wither into the ether. But people caught on, and here we are now. So I'm glad I kept with it, and it's the growth has been really, really cool to see.
Orin 9737. Hey Trey, I had a question which is better to look at. Significant tornado, significant Oh, sorry. Okay. Significant tornado effective layer or violent tornado parameter. So I think it's I
Yeah.
think he's talking about 3 separate parameters: significant tornado, effective layer, or violent tornado.
Yeah, so if you watch my videos, you know I have some disdain for the composite products, but they can be useful in certain situations. And for cases where they're giving you accurate readings, either will work. I tend to stay away from the violent tornado parameter. Significant tornado effective layer SIGTOR is usually the go-to if I'm looking at that. Again, it's rare if I do look at that, but effective layer SIGTOR is kind of the more useful one, I think. But they can both provide some decent signals for certain events. But I tend to stay away from VTP overall.
I was unaware that effective layer SIGTOR was a thing that existed, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, there's fixed layer and effective layer. So the fixed layer just uses a set layer. I forget which one it is, 0 to 1 kilometer maybe. Probably for SIGTOR, it's 0 to 1 kilometer. But effective layer, you use the effective inflow layer. So it changes based on the sounding, which makes it slightly more accurate. So the effective layer is the one you want to look at over the fixed layer in most cases.
And I was looking back through my old photos because I wanted to give an accurate answer to this. People asked about our first tornadoes, and I know that they were probably mostly asking you, but I figured I would chime in here as well because I accidentally saw a tornado back on March 27th, 2017. It was near Grove City, Ohio. I don't know if anybody wants to go back into the archive and check that out, but I was at a family get together with a bunch of friends and family members, and this tornado sirens went off. And I was a weather enthusiast. I had radar scope. I knew what a hook echo was, but I'd not really been storm chasing at that point. And I just like went outside, drove down the road 5 minutes, and saw like the most brief of spin ups occur. But the cut of the RFD was actually really cool, and I'm going to post that picture here in the chat room for everybody. So I'll get on that while I'm throwing the next question to you, Trey, which is from Runs a Chaser, and they want to know what music is the best for storm chasing.
That's a good question. I am somebody who shuts the music off when it's chase mode. But driving to the target, I usually just have my playlist on, and that encompasses a lot of weird stuff. But I've got Genesis, Phil Collins, Rush. Love me some Rush. Um, Bob Marley. Love some Bob Marley. And Humans Beings on there as well. That's just a classic storm chase song. If you don't have that in your playlist and you're a storm chaser, you should, because that is such a great song, perfect for hardcore chasing. But when the chase mode starts, music gets turned off, so I can focus 100%.
All right, questions are closed, says Anna. She is the top goober, so I am obligated to listen to her edict that she has decreed.
I'm the boss.
I'm gonna hammer through these last few questions, and then we are gonna bring Ethan up on the stage. Coach Ethan Moriarty, hanging out in the chat this whole time. We're gonna bring that rock star up on the stage for a few minutes to shoot the breeze and talk about June 1st and see what's going on over there. So, Twisted Nature wants to know: do you always need directional shear for supercells? And Trey, maybe a good idea to also talk about how there are sneakily 2 different types of shear for people who may just be getting started.
Yeah, there's wind shear is comprised of directional shear and speed shear. So directional shear is how the wind direction changes with height. Speed shear is how the wind speed changes with height. You can get supercells with just speed shear. That can allow for rotating storms. But for tornadic supercells, you usually want that directional shear. Obviously, there are plenty of exceptions, boundary cases, although outflow boundaries do provide localized enhanced directional shear usually. And then your storm interactions can kind of negate that as well. But the canonical sort of tornadic supercell, you need that meat hooking hodograph that comes from directional shear in the low levels. but usually you want a combination of directional and speed shear for optimal supercell setups, but you can get supercells with just speed shear.
By the way, if you could only choose, or I guess if you could say which one is more important, would you rather have a lot of one or the other, and you had to choose one configuration?
Technically, you would want both because speed shear tilts the updraft. Directional shear allows for those rotating um, convective rolls or vortex tubes to get ingested into those storms to allow them to rotate, but you still can overcome that with speed shear. I would say directional shear is maybe slightly more important, but you do want the winds to strengthen as you go up in the atmosphere, but it's not always necessary. If you look at your high plains stuff, Colorado, Wyoming, you'll often see maybe 20 knots of flow at 850 millibars, so much lower than what we'd see with a plains, central plains or southern plains tornado event. With your strong low-level jet, and you'll have very weak flow aloft, but those winds are really turning aloft. Maybe you'll have easterly flow at the surface, terrain influenced, and you have westerly flow aloft, so really strong directional shear despite not a lot of speed shear. That is optimal as well. So I would say directional shear is mostly is a little bit more important than speed shear.
Tornadoes equals zero now has a little sad face next to the name Tornadoes equals zero. I don't know if that was there last time. Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was
Yeah,
there, but the copy paste sometimes goofs up.
Okay. Well, the little sad face is a nice touch, whether it was just added or if it's been there the whole time. So, love the name. Probably my favorite name we've come across in all of the Storm Chaser Coaching Discord history. They have a few questions for you, Trey. So maybe if you want to work your way through these kind of quick.
Yep.
First of all, about models related to the SEMREF, is it true models will have problems developing prefrontal convection close to the line, such as in 42724 and 422025?
Yeah, that's something that specifically the HER struggles with. We saw this on April 2nd, the high risk day this past year. Only something like the Rufus, I think, the RRFS had cells right in front of the line. And the HER really does struggle with that, it seems. I don't know what the deal is with that, but yeah, prefrontal convection in general tends to be a little bit tricky for those to handle. Because oftentimes you'll see storms in the warm sector, they won't have strong helicity streaks and whatnot. But as we know, those storms that are prefrontal supercells out there in somewhere like the southeast, they tend to be just those little beans. They don't tend to be very large supercells. So the cams are going to have a little bit tougher time reflecting that in their output. So you won't see strong, big helicity streaks with those, which can be misleading. Those are just rain showers. So when I'm looking at that, I usually just want to see some convection in the warm sector. Sometimes you'll see the little bean shape on the HER, but yeah, so yeah, they do struggle with the prefrontal stuff, especially right ahead of the line. Yes, that they do struggle with that.
Okay, next question from them is, would you say the interaction between linear convection enhancing the tornadic potential of prefrontal supercells is caused by the outflow of the line or the interaction of them both?
Both, I would say, because when it kind of merges with the line. So there are two different things with that. Something like in April 27th, 2024, where the supercells go tornadic well before the line catches it. Then, so it's not necessarily direct contribution from the outflow of the MCS that's catching it. It's more so the perturbation in the atmosphere, the density current, gravity wave kind of, so to speak, if you can visualize that can balance out the inflow of those supercells to make the storm interaction stuff happen. And then you have your storms that go tornadic when the line eats it, basically. Then you have the outflow from the line that is much more of a factor there directly. The outflow is balancing out the inflow. You get the RFD to surge, and then you get the tornado to happen there. So two separate cases, but very important in both cases that you have that MCS to nudge.
And lastly, is there an official term for overmixing in the meteorological world when it relates to severe weather? Most sources I find are about overrunning and how it relates to precipitation.
Overmixing would be the technical term, I guess. That's the only term I've heard it described as. Um, yeah, overmixing, something like the HER overmixes dew points. So too much of dry air coming down to the surface. Um, yeah, overmixing is all I've heard. As it's what I've used forever. So yeah, overrunning is more so of frontal precipitation, where you have moisture that's kind of going up and over the frontal surface, and then you get the warm fronts specifically. This is what we're dealing with. You're dealing with warm fronts mostly when you're talking about overrunning. That moisture goes up and over the more subtle frontal surface of the warm front, and then you get precipitation on the cool side of the front. That's what overrunning means. Overmixing is a completely different thing. It deals with too much dry air coming down from aloft, cratering those dew points out ahead in the warm sector of a severe weather setup. You'll see that often with the HER, and that's why one of the big biases it has.
Or in 9737. So significant tornado effective layer is the better parameter. Yep. So we've already hit that one. Yep. Significant tornado effective layer, better to use than the violent tornado parameter.
Yep.
And then the last question here, then we'll bring Coach Ethan up on the stage for 5 minutes or so. If you guys want to stick around, hang out with us. Twisted Nature asks, from the look of our ENSO predictions for spring and summer, what are you thinking for precipitation across the country? So not necessarily supercells, convective severe weather, but just precipitation in general.
Good question. I have not really seen the latest ENSO progs, so let me pull those up and see. So looks like we're going to be heading into El Nino. We'll be neutral for the start of the summer, and perhaps for a good chunk of the summer, and then El Nino for the remainder of it. So El Nino is more so that subtropical jet that's doing the work rather than La Nina, which you have more amplified jet streams. If we say in neutral, it's kind of a toss-up. It may hinge a little bit more on the other teleconnections that we have. So we'll have to see how that progresses. If we get into El Nino a little bit quicker, then it may be a little bit different. But yeah, so in the summer, it's definitely a little bit interesting. There's not as much research on that. I did do for my honors thesis when I was at Arizona State. I actually looked at severe weather in Arizona, hail, wind, tornadoes compared to ENSO, and we found that ENSO is not quite as favorable for the monsoon as neutral or La Nina. So that could be something to watch. A little bit drier in the southwest, possibly. And then if we have, but it remains to be seen. If it is neutral, which the current predictions have us in neutral, through the probabilities for El Nino don't really go above neutral until maybe August or so, kind of that time frame. But again, that can change. So we'll just have to see. If we get into El Nino, then we could see a little bit more. So usually with El Nino, it's not quite as favorable for any type of weather stuff in the U.S. With winter, usually El Nino is wetter south, drier north. So if El Nino is around for summer, then we could see a little bit wetter central and southern portions of the country. But it remains to be seen. If we stick in neutral, then it's kind of a toss-up. So we'll just have to see how that goes.
We've got Ethan up on the stage with us now. So, Ethan, happy to have you here. And Trey, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I cooked up a little surprise, a little something for you that we can use whenever you decide to talk about your favorite thing in the world. So,
yep, monsoon. Take a sip.
What's going on in the June 1st world, Ethan?
Not much. No, it's just funny with the first tornado story or whatever, and I was like, oh, wonder how that worked out for me. If that doesn't happen, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. But mine was much more coming to me than the other way around. So
got a good name for your content there. The JFC year.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go. I like that.
So,
for
Ethan,
those that are
those who are
I should
unaware, give
probably
them the story. Let them know what happened.
Yeah, so on June, I'm native to Western Massachusetts, born and raised West Springfield, so in the Pioneer, Connecticut River Valley. And on June 1st, 2011, we had a severe weather setup. Isolated supercells formed out in front of a cold front. One of them became dominant and produced a long-tracked EF3 tornado through Massachusetts, and I was on my way to my Little League baseball game and witnessed the tornado go through my hometown of West Springfield and into downtown Springfield. Definitely one of the most notable New England tornado events of the past now 15 years. And so having witnessed that tornado, that's I was already a weather geek, but that was kind of the nail in the coffin to make me obsessed for life. So but first chase tornado didn't come until 2018, so we'll make it work.
Tell us about that one.
2018. That one was, I'm just double check. No, 2017. That one was February 25th, 2017. It was a QLCS spin up in Conway, Massachusetts. Very poor positioning by me. And basically got steamrolled by it. I didn't like see it, but I was pretty much, in kind of the circulation of it and all that. And yeah, it's not something I talk about often because it's not one of my proudest moments. But and then the first one with my own eyes was after that was May 15th, 2018, which was a moderate risk day in the Northeast, very rare. And but that was the Winstead, Connecticut EF1. So cutting my teeth in the worst places.
I remember that because I was out in the plains during that time in 2018, which sucked.
Yep.
And we kept
that was
seeing
brutal.
all the action everywhere else but the plains, and we saw that moderate risk. I think Daniel Shaw went out and actually chased that.
It was well, because it was we had a wind-driven moderate risk the week prior, or 10 days prior, I think, and that was a wind-driven one. But this one, I mean, there was still a wind-driven moderate, but I think it was the 1630 outlook. It was they upgraded to 10% for tornadoes, kind of in that triple point of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and the Hudson Valley in New York. And I wasn't able to get out work early enough to get to the cells that I wanted to chase out in the Hudson Valley. It would have been much easier to see some of those tornadoes out there near Poughkeepsie in that kind of region of New York, but ultimately made it work in the jungles of northern Connecticut, and nearly had pine trees coming down on me when we caught that tornado near Winstead. So
nice.
I'm honestly surprised that you guys don't pronounce Poughkeepsie something like Pooski or something like that. Just
the Northeast pronunciation.
Yeah, man, I was surprised. So yeah, Springfield not very far away from Worcester. I was looking at it on the map. So
yeah, it's like a 40-minute drive.
How far are you from Boston and Springfield? I know everything on the northeast coast is kind of compressed compared to out in the central and western portions of the country.
It's a 2-hour drive still.
So
it's about 2 hours to Boston, and then 2.5 to New York City.
Yeah, there's a good chance that I'm actually going to be moving out that way sometime within the next couple of years. So we're not really sure exactly where we're going to end up, but Melissa, our COO for Storm Chaser Coaching, and she's my girlfriend for those who don't know, she's looking at going to graduate school somewhere in the Northeast because that's where she's from. She wants to be a little closer to family. So she's looked at a lot of different schools, everything from Maine to northern New York and everything in between. So who knows, but definitely going to be downgrading my chasing terrain as if Ohio was good to begin with. So it's probably going to be rough sailing for me. You have to teach me all the little hot spots out there in Massachusetts if there's any setups, Ethan.
Okay, I'm always down for a little northeast jaunt. It's the stomping grounds there, makes planes chasing easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, people there's a lot of very excited people in chat right now that we're mentioning the Northeast. So you can really tell
Yeah,
that
there's a
these
lot
people
of
love
Northeast
it.
representation in this circle, which is fun to see. I mean, obviously there's a population bias in some capacity,
Right.
and the North, and the internet has obviously exposed a lot of people to, storm chasing and stuff like that. But man, it's like still cool to see because it's like we don't get enough of that type of stuff, and so it's like you don't really get those kind of lucky events that I had the opportunity to witness to really kind of cement at home nowadays. So
Amen to that. Ethan, any effects of the upcoming winter storm up there where you're at?
we're gonna get slammed with snow at this point. It's pretty much guaranteed. Like being greater New York City now, further up, like where I grew up in Western Massachusetts, is still kind of like they will get snow, but it's gonna be lesser totals. It looks like, but we're kind of sitting in the northern edge of the main swath. It looks like in terms of, and it looks like I think the latest guidance from all the ensembles, it looks like we're like at the 70% chance for 12 inches or more in our area. So I'll take that and I'll gladly get buried. Get that ice away from me. I don't want any of that.
Trey, that's a good segue as we play ourselves out here. Let people know about the forecast discussion you have scheduled for tomorrow morning. It's been sitting up there on YouTube all day. At first, I forgot to read what time it was coming out, so I kept checking back to see if you'd already posted it, but then I realized it wasn't until tomorrow morning.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Central Time tomorrow morning, live stream on the winter storm. Probably won't go too deep into the science just because of how impactful this is going to be. We'll show some probabilistic stuff and where the ice might set up. Look at some totals, forecast totals from the WPC and whatnot. But yeah, that'll 10 a.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow morning.
What time is it the first impacts expected to arrive out there in the more western states?
So for us, they're saying Friday morning. Possibly things will start around then. We'll get some mix at first. And then once we get in overnight Friday into Saturday is when things are really going to start to hammer us out here.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't done any prep, any necessary items that you might need to buy from the store, things like that, do make sure you either get out later tonight, depending on where you're located. Stores may or may not still be open, but definitely get out there tomorrow and do what you can. Maybe even late enough or early enough for you to put in like a next day order on Amazon if you have that opportunity as well. Pay a little extra, get it out there for you.
Yeah, the stores were busy today. I went to Costco and Winco, and they were much busier than normal. So people seem to be preparing. The Brahms meter here is at a 1, which they for some reason 5 is the least aggressive and 1 is the most aggressive, and the Brahms meter's at a 1. It's your bread and milk meter. So everybody's I think taking this seriously, which is good.
Sounds like they're competing with the SPC for the most confusing way to deliver the the risk level to the general public.
It's the Mesonet, the Oklahoma Mesonet. They do the Brahms meter. It's kind of a joke, but it's kitschy and it works. But yeah, 5 is the least. If they go from 5 to 1, 1 is DEFCON a million or what? DEFCON's weird too. I don't even know. 1 is the most aggressive. 5 is you don't need to worry about it, and we're at a 1. So
yeah, and Greeny reading my mind right there. Moderate being higher than enhanced. I'll live and die on that hill. Like there's just like it's unbelievably confusing, but whatever.
There's actual studies on that that I know has been done by for Alex. I want to give credit where credit's due, but he did a public research paper for his like graduate work, and it was basically interpretation and how like the general public perceives the risks, and it was like moderate, enhanced, and all that. It was all flipped. So even I even think slight and marginal were flipped. It was like really interesting to see how it all broke down. So
yeah, I would love it if we could just go to a 1 out of 5, a 2 out of 5, and then a 5 out of 5. But if you're talking about the bread scale in Oklahoma, apparently a 1 out of 5 would be the worst. So Public messaging just needs to get their act together. Come on, people. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Ron's
everyone.
is slept on for a good fast food burger.
All right.
Tom's is all right. Their ice cream's good. Their burger, they slather their burgers in frickin' mayo, and it's gross.
Oh, I get
Their
the
ice cream's
spicy one. I get the one with the jalapenos on it, so I don't get mayo.
They used
I knew
to have a
Jackson
limited
was going to
time
be excited about that.
pimento cheese one that was good. They took it away, of course.
Oh, now I'm thinking of the Masters and pimento cheese sandwiches.
Oh yeah, yeah, classic.
Always back to food. Always back to food.
Always.
We've probably made everyone hungry, so you guys can all go grab some food now. Ethan is going to play us out. Appreciate you joining us here, and Trey, thanks a lot for hanging out with us. And Top Goober, Anna, you did wonderful tonight. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. That was fun.
Little human speeding on the way out.
All right. See you, everyone.
See ya.
Oh, it wasn't picking up. That's unfortunate.
I love how he cuts out right after he says that's unfortunate.